Hello and welcome to a new episode of my FLosstube channel. My name is Jacob de Graaf of Modern Folk Embroidery, and today we're going to be talking about two brand new designs in my Dark Crosses series, but we're also going to talk, and that's what we're going to start with, a Black Sampler November. I realized how quickly this year has flown by. It seems like I just launched my Stitch Along for 2022. And I've already been getting emails like, will you be doing a 2023 email? And I was like, oh, is it already towards the end of the year? And it is. It's just, this year has just literally flown by, which is just crazy. But yes, there will be a 2023 Stitch Along again, but more about that in some other video. But last year we did Black Sampler November, and it was really... I really loved how successful it was. So many people of you participated and so many designers joined in on the fun as well, releasing new patterns, highlighting patterns that they had already designed. I had a bunch of new releases. There was this one here, AIO 1844, which I really enjoyed stitching this design. It's a really fun sampler. It was in a terrible state as I showed last year, but I kind of fixed it up and discovered that there was a whole set of little birdies right at the top of this sampler. But that was one of the releases back then. I have a few new designs. Like I said, I've got a new design that I'm going to share at the end of this video. But I thought first I will explain a little bit what Black Sampler November is. I'm going to show you, besides this one, a couple of the designs that I have already designed that I think would be really suitable. But technically any monochrome sampler can be a black sampler, so I would say just go out on the hunt and find something that you like. So last year I launched Black Sampler November after talking to some people, and they were asking me about black samplers, and then I got a couple of comments like, oh, aren't they a bit mournful, or aren't they a bit dark and a bit sort of moody? Isn't it a bit scary, black samplers? But they weren't, and they were never intended as such either, which is really cool. We don't exactly know why a lot of people started stitching black samplers. I do know that it was a couple of the religious groups like the Quakers, and in Groningen there was farmers who were mostly strict reformed, and that's the same for the group of people in the north of Germany, in the Vierlande region. So it is possible that soberness had a role on it. But of course black samplers are just really truly classic pieces of embroidery, and I just love that sort of timeless feel that they have, that beautiful classic look, and I think they deserve a lot more love than they have been getting in the past. So I thought, like, let's start Black Sampler November. The red samplers seem always to get all the love. Let's give the black sampler some love. So that was what I set out to do, and it was just really exciting to see so many people join in and share their stitching. So for the full month of November, starting on the 1st, the idea is to work on but not have to finish, because you can stitch as long as you want, but it's sort of like a start along or just working on an older project, but as long as it's stitched with black floss. It should be a black sampler or a black stitching project. And when you're working on those things, just use the hashtag Black Sampler November. Just like last year, you don't need to add the year to it. I think it's kind of fun as well that you get the older posts to have a look at them as well. And we just keep sort of adding onto the list of images on Instagram, which I think is going to be quite exciting. So you can use any sampler, like I said. It doesn't need to be me. Of course, I would be very happy if you buy my designs. Pays for the gas and the electric in my house, which is quite nice. But you can pick any designer. I mean, it's really good to show other people some love as well. And just keep an eye on Instagram and just follow the hashtag. I'm sure fellow designers will be sharing their designs as well with the hashtag Black Sampler November. and you can sort of start seeing some stuff hopefully soon from people that you follow or that you might not know yet, so you might discover some new people that way as well. I thought I would show you just a bunch of stuff that I have stitched that I think is either already black or very dark, because black, of course, does not need to be DMC 310. You can use like very dark greys, extremely dark brown hues or blue hues, because in the past black was never really black. It was always like a hue of something that was very, very dark. Like true black was very hard to get, and well, you could get it, but it would be very brittle because you needed to add iron to your dyes, and that would make the thread brittle. So like a true black is not something that we often see in antique stitching. It's usually more going into hues of a very dark indigo or very dark brown. But feel free to stitch whatever you want with whatever floss you want. It's all good. This is a design that I made years ago, which is the little bird Quaker sampler, and I think I have showed it on my FLosstube before, but I thought I'd just pull it out of the drawer again. I think this is a really fun one to do fully in black. Mine is in a dark blue, but in this light it nearly looks black, so it would do the trick. But you don't need to stitch a sampler. You can do a decorative piece as well. This one was stitched in grey threads, but again would look perfect in black, and it's called Swedish Horses, and it was really sort of inspired by tapestry pieces and other pieces of Swedish folklore art, which I really, really admire. And this was a really, really fun piece. It's just sitting in a drawer right now, but I feel like I should give it some love, and I should probably turn it into a nice cushion, because I think that would be kind of fun, or frame it at least, because it is already ready for framing. I gave it a little hem edge, so I should really be framing that. I don't know why it's still not done. You don't need to go all full out enormous project either. You can do like a little tiny piece, like this one for instance, which is Birds in the Orchard, which is a tiny design that I made after visiting a gorgeous bit in the mountains, a really sort of really nice sort of valley garden type thing. It was right in the mountains, in a very fertile region. Comau, I think the name was. I think they called it the fruit bowl of the Comau. I forgot the name sadly, but it was a beautiful region, and there was lots of fruit trees and lots of little birds, and it was just absolutely extraordinary. So while I was there, I made this little design, just a little sort of folklore-y type, little orchard style tree with lots of little birdies, and I just jabbed the year on it, which doesn't have any meaning, I believe. I can't remember if I gave it any meaning, but you can just change that to whatever year you like, or maybe to 2022 if you stitch this one up for Black Sampler November, and just add your initials there. I think that would be kind of cute. That would be a really nice one. One other one that I designed as a red sampler, but I think this would look really cool as a black sampler, is the Winter Border sampler, which I haven't framed either, and it's just, as you can see by the creases, just sitting in my drawer, which is depressing. But this was a really fun project based on a very old, sort of, I believe it was a 16th century book of cross-stitch charts from Germany, and I just really liked the way it looked. And then I looked at old tapestries from Iceland, and I used these letters from those, so that's like a sort of a German Scandi kind of Christmas design. But it's not, I mean, I called it Winter Border Sampler, not Christmas Border, because I thought it looked quite wintry if you do it black and white, red and white. But this is something that you could sort of hang on your wall all year round, I think, and it would work really well that way. But yeah, that's one I think that would work really well as well. Or if you're feeling slightly gothic, you could go for something like this, Spirits of the Dead, which I think a lot of you have seen already. But that's a fun one as well. It's October now, so you might be in the mood to sort of stitch something a little bit spooky. which is also a great October stitch, this one, by the way, Spirits of the Dead. But yeah, that's the patterns that I thought would be quite suitable. Of course, there's a whole range that I didn't highlight any of the sort of more traditional Quakers or the sort of the designs that I have made. They always work really well, fully black, I think. But yeah, I thought I'd show just these and let the rest up to your own imagination and pick whatever you want to work on. I am working on a brand new design, and it actually brings me to the two new designs. If you're wondering, there is a bunch of Christmas bells here which are constantly rattling on my table when I pick stuff up, which is totally random. But yeah, as I said, it's nearly Christmas time, so I need to do some Christmas music, I thought. But this is something that I am stitching on right now, and I've got it upside down actually. And I'll show some photos as well, because it's quite difficult to show this. I would bring it closer to the camera, but my focus is not working on my camera, and I have been fighting for about 2 hours now with my camera. And I was supposed to record this afternoon, and it is now nearly 9 o'clock. And so yeah, for about 4 hours I have been trying to figure out how I can get my autofocus to work, and it just doesn't want to work. But that's all unrelated stuff, and that's not why you're here. You're here to see some stitching. So this is a new one, and I'm really excited about this pattern. I'll insert the picture and the picture of the progress here, and it is called Here Be Dragons. Now, for this design, I took inspiration from a beautiful, beautiful book, which I have used in the past as well. The pattern that I did a while ago also used from Jobin's book, which was well, I'll insert a picture here. My brain, I've been working on this stupid camera so long that my brain is not functioning anymore. But I'm not gonna make any edits today either. Anyway, I'll put a picture here of the other pattern. But Bernard Jobin's book in the late 16th century is so inspiring. So I had a look through it, and I found this absolutely awesome image of a dragon, and I thought, like, I just have to chart that one. So I drew it, cleaned it up really nicely, and then from the same book a little bit further in, I found this really gorgeous border that I had to adapt slightly to make it fit. So I thought, like, I'll give it some corner designs with little branches floating off. So it kind of works in the overall design. And then I dotted a whole bunch of little pluses or little crosses, like medieval tapestries would have, as well as a background filling. And there's a really nice Gothic lettering as well that I found in a different pattern book from I think it was about 70, 80 years earlier, in the beginning of the 1520s. And I just love those Gothic letters on it. So the pattern says Hic sunt dracones, and that means here be dragons. And I really like that on old maps, cartographers would, on the edges of the known world, where basically unknown dangers were lying, they would draw little dragons or mythical creatures, sort of indicating, like, we don't know what is here and it's scary. And a lot of people think that the line "Here be dragons" or "Hic sunt dracones" is actually from medieval maps, but it isn't. The medieval ones would often say "Hic sunt leones," here be lions, which were equally scary. But it was only until, I believe, 1600 or something like that. There was an old map, and that one actually said "Hic sunt dracones," so "Here be dragons." But before that, like on maps from 12 something, already we see beautiful dragons on the outer edges, indicating unknown territory. And I think it's a really beautiful metaphor as well for the great unknown, things that we don't know, that maybe lie in the future, or things that we have no certainty of, because that's where the dragons are. So yes, that's Here Be Dragons, which is in my shop now. If you go to the main page of my website, you can find it there. I believe that Caroline from Evertoad also has the print booklets as a pre-order, so you can get it from her website as well. And she's got some lovely recommendations of, I believe, porcelain linen, which looks a little bit like this linen. And she's got the Gomez floss with that, because I'm stitching mine with Gomez by Leo and Roxy, which is a really, really gorgeous black. But then again, all of the blacks that Leo and Roxy does are really, really gorgeous. They've got chalkboard, for instance, which I have been using in the past as well. Charcoal is another one. I believe charcoal is a bit more like a proper black with a slight subtle variegation. Chalkboard had a little bit more white in it. Gomez is just really, really fantastic as well. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of blacks that are really, really worth checking out. I mean, like, all of the colors are gorgeous, but if you're like looking for black flosses for Black Sampler November, yeah, definitely go check them out. So yes, the pattern is available for pre-order on evertoad.ca. Sorry, I had to think about that. And you can get the PDF straight away and start stitching on my website. And the second pattern that I have, which has just been released, is, let me just grab that one, I've got it on my computer here, Mother Shipton. Now, as many of you know, I really hope that my video doesn't run out. As many of you know, we used to live in New York for 15 years, and really close by was a really gorgeous market town called Knaresborough. And Knaresborough was quite famous for a character called Mother Shipton, who supposedly lived in a cave and was a soothsayer from 1488 to 1561 she lived. Her name was Ursula Southill, or Southill, it depends on the spelling that you find. But she was the daughter of a 15-year-old girl, and the mother basically was pushed out of the community because she would not say who the father was. And of course, in very unfeminist times, you did not believe a woman, or if she was pregnant, it must be her fault. So she was sort of shunned to the side. And poor Ursula was born in this cave. She was said to be deformed as well. When she was 2 years old, she was put in a foster home in Knaresborough itself, and her mother was put in a convent by a bishop. So the mother and child never saw each other again, which is really sad. And Ursula grew up, and there was lots of strange stories surrounding her life from the moment she grew up with this family till the moment she died, really. She married a gentleman who later died just a few years after her marriage. Of course, she was blamed for that, and they blamed her of being a witch as well, because she knew a lot of things. She was someone who had a deep fascination for herbology. So, of course, all these things were highly suspicious in the age that Mother Shipton, or Ursula Southill, was living. Eventually, after the death of her husband, she retreated back to the cave that she was born in, and she remained there for the last years of her life. But from there, she actually helped the people of Knaresborough by providing them medicine, or herbal medicine at least. And she advised them as well as a soothsayer. She made predictions. Even though most of the famous predictions that she supposedly made have been debunked as a 19th century invention by a publisher who just wanted to make a quick buck on her name, she did say some very unusual and strange things, of things that later did occur that she could not have known, which is quite fascinating. So perhaps she was a very intuitive person that just was much more knowledgeable than people gave her credit for. I think Ursula was a very fascinating woman. I have not depicted her as the hideous hag that she was described to be, because I think those stories often tend to be hugely exaggerated. So I just depicted her as the nicest image that I found of her, with a image of Knaresborough stylized in the background, and her name on top, and Knaresborough soothsayer, and the dates on the bottom. And these letters are all sort of based on very early samplers as well, so they're quite nice and old, just to match that sort of old feeling of this This pattern can be fully stitched in black on white linen, but you can also do the 2-color version that you see here, which I think would be kind of cool as well, where you work with the white and the black floss on like a medium color. But if you don't want to do all the white stitching, you can just ditch that and just stitch fully the whole thing, only the black floss. And then you would have another great one for Black Sampler November. I'm going to leave it at that. I will be back very soon. I've got a FAQ, or a frequently asked questions, planned again. If you have any questions for me, just put them in the comments down in the bottom here. All of the patterns that I have shown and talked about, you can find in the description as well. And I will be hopefully back very, very soon. I don't want to wait too long with the next video, which will be like Lord of the Rings 2, but hopefully not as long. Anyway, it has been lovely chatting with you and catching up with you. I am just keeping my fingers crossed that this battery is not dead and that I can just upload this thing in one go on YouTube. I'll see you soon again. Give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and happy stitching. Bye bye.